So today we are talking about real backup and restore of a database. So this is the backup and restore, and I'm going to do it, I guess I'll do it with your guys' account that I made for you, just to make sure that everything's going to work. So this is the type of backup and restore that an actual database administrator would do. So and I mean, you guys are going to be in software development environments, and so in a software development environment, whenever you're doing work on creating a new whatever it is that you're doing, usually when you're working on that, it would be scary not to do this actually. Usually when you're working on a new piece of software, any database interaction that has to happen with that piece of software is done on a non-live version of the database. So making changes to the live version of the database on software that is not production value is dangerous, and so that usually never happens. And so database administrators kindly make backups of the live database for you to work in. Sometimes there's several, right? Sometimes there's 3, 4, 5 different versions of the database that are sitting out there, and usually that has to do with the age of the database. So like there'll be a database copy that's a year old, something like that, and there'll be one that's younger, maybe made every quarter or something like that, and then there's possibly one, depending on the situation and how dynamic the data is inside of wherever it is that you're working, you might get one every month, every week. Sometimes people are crazy and restore and make backups every single day. But you can think if the database is of any size, then it may or may not be a substantial amount of storage that they have to allocate in order to create those backups. So what we're going to do is we're going to create one of those backup files, and then we're going to take that backup file that we created and we are going to restore a different version of the same database with that backup file. So when we create the backup file, it's going to associate it with the main version of the database, and when we restore it, we're going to restore from that main version into a different copy, snapshot of that database itself. So there's a difference between making the backup and letting it sit there and actually creating a database from that backup. We're going to go through both of those processes. So process number 1, make the backup. Now, technically speaking, you guys could do this on any of these databases because the login that I gave you is God mode. And so what I'd encourage you to do for the sake of going through this process in this class is maybe do the process we're going to go through on these databases that you guys created down here. Now, you are going to use these databases for your final project. This is where I'm going to go and look for what you've done on your project. And so this thing needs to exist. There's possibilities that you can destroy databases with what we're going to do. And so if that happens, don't freak out. Just get rid of the database and make a new one. On your exam, you're going to have to do both. So you're going to create a new database that doesn't exist inside of here, and then you're going to have to back up and restore that database after you've loaded some information into it from like a flat file or something like that. And so all of that is going to happen for your final, and so I'll be able to trace all that inside of here. But for now, find these databases that you created and do what I'm going to do on it. Now, I'm going to create a backup of something else. Like, let's see what's in Foundations 1 here. Yikes, not much. I guess this would be Foundations 1, so you wouldn't think there would be much inside of there. Maybe the Foundations 2 database will have some more stuff. Oh yeah, we got all kinds of stuff in there. Oh, I've already looked at this. Maybe I have, I don't know. So I'm going to do a backup of Foundations 2. So when you're doing a backup at the database level, then the menu for the backup is located inside of here. So, tasks, and then backup, right? So right click on the database, go to tasks, click on backup, and that will start the wizard. And here it is, the backup wizard. So I'm going to go through all the settings inside of here. Big one is right here at the top, right? So when you right click on a database and go to backup, it opens up the wizard, but the wizard isn't specific to that database. So if you needed to, you could change whatever database it is that you're backing up inside of here, right? It's a generic wizard. So choose your database. We did that. Recovery model. So what kind of backup do you want to take? Do you want a full, a differential, or do you just want the transaction log? So the difference between those, full's pretty self-explanatory. It's everything that's there. Differential backup, so like if you're making a backup all the time, once a month, whatever it is, and all that you really want is you want the difference between what happened on the backup you took a month ago versus where the database is right now. It can do that. It can just, it'll say, these are all the changes that happened to the database during that time lapse from the last time you took a snapshot to now, and that's what it backs up. So it kind of saves on space and things like that. And then the transaction log, so anything that's done to a database, anything, literally anything that happens, there is a log that is made of all of those transactions. And if all you care about is, I just want to know about the stuff that's happened in the database at a given point of time, then you can just have a backup of that transaction log in case you got to go back and say, I don't know, what happened on this date that made this error inside of the database occur or something like that. So those are your options. Go ahead.
Okay, so what happens if you don't have the option for transaction log? Does that mean there isn't one?
No, it's there. It's just, you're just doing a backup of the transaction log, right? The transaction log is always going to exist, but for the same reason that you do a backup of the database, i.e. catastrophic failure, you would do a backup of the transaction log in case there's some sort of catastrophic failure where you couldn't get back into it.
Oh, I mean like if it's not an option in the wizard.
Oh, you don't have an option for transaction log.
And also the recovery model is listed as simple instead of full, even though I have backup type listed right now.
Really? I don't know. I don't think it's going to make a difference whether it's simple or full for what we're about to do. Actually,
It's only a problem when I select my database. But when I select Foundations 2, it shows up
as
with
full.
all the, yeah.
Oh, maybe because there's not enough. Have you created something inside of your database?
Yeah, I mean for the first project, you have to create stuff. So.
All right. I'm going to go with it probably has something to do with the complexity of the data inside of the database itself. And so you wouldn't need a full recovery for something that doesn't have all the bits and pieces that it would make a full recovery of. And so if those things have been generated inside of the database, then full recovery is an option. Otherwise, it's not. So I think for this example, doing simple is going to be okay, because when we do the restoration, well, we'll make sure, right? After we go through the process, we'll just make sure you guys have everything that you should whenever you restore it, so that way, because on the exam, you're going to have to do a recovery of a database that you just, there won't be a ton of stuff inside of there. You're just going to import a flat file into a table and then make a backup of it and restore it. So yeah, if you would, go through the process with a simple recovery model, and then you guys can just tell me what happens after it's done.
Okay, so, but even so, why wouldn't there be a transaction log option? Because I mean, wouldn't it at least get the creation of those databases?
Yeah, you would think so. I don't know. That's something I've never run into, actually. I mean, all the times where I'm restoring and backing up a database, those options are there. So there's something different about it. I don't know. I'll have to look that up and figure out exactly why that isn't there. I'm sure it's something simple. Do you want to do a copy only backup? So, no, because, well, if we do a copy, the restore would be a little bit different. So just leave that unchecked. And then this section right here that says backup component, let's leave that also the same. We want to back up the database, obviously, so leave that there. Important part for us is what do you want to back up to? And we get the option of URL or disk, and we're going to back up to disk. Now I want you to look at this file path inside of here, and just to kind of show you where this is, click on Add over here on the right hand side, and then click on the file name ellipse over here so we can actually open it up. So I want you guys to see this. This pathway inside of here is on the server, right? So this is not, unless you're using a local installation of SQL Server and some databases that you created on your machine. If you're logged into our SQL Server, then this path will be exactly like mine. It is within the server itself. And you can see there's a bunch of old stuff out here where people have done backups. And I need to cleanse all of this before we take our final. In fact, it's going to give us some trouble today just sifting through the data. But anyway, this is on the server itself. So don't change it, right? Don't randomly choose a spot thinking, oh, where's my desktop, right? Users, administrator, yeah, I'm an administrator. All users, desktop, right? I want to save it to the desktop. Don't do that. This is the desktop of the server, which I mean, you're authenticated with SQL Server, and so that authentication shouldn't give you permission to save anywhere other than these folders. So you shouldn't have a problem with it, but if you do, don't, right? Don't save it anywhere except the default location, which is right here. Here it is. Media options. You can just leave all these, what their defaults are, and it's going to do exactly what we want. There's nothing special that I'm going to make you guys do on the exam that you're going to use any of these options. And so don't worry about it. And then backup options, what do you want the name of the backup to be? If you want to add a description, and then whether the backup set is going to expire, which means that you won't be able to restore from it after a certain point. We're just gonna leave that the default, which is not to turn the expiration on. So leave all those the same, and then just say, okay, mine's going to be called foundations2.bak, which is fantastic. And then I'm just going to say, okay. So the backup of database foundations 2 was completed successfully. Hooray. Now, we have that backup file sitting out there, and at this point, what we want to do is restore from that backup file, and when we do that, we're doing that at the database's folder level as opposed to the specific database level, because this one's happening, within the context of all the databases. So we're going to right-click, and there's an option to restore database. You get a similar wizard in this option, and first thing it's asking you is, where is the database? Are you restoring from a database itself? So it's possible to take an existing database and restore a copy of that database from the database right now, right? So give me a snapshot as it exists immediately. In our case, our database source exists on the device, and we're going to click the ellipse over here on the right-hand side, and it's coming from a file, and we're going to add a location inside of here to pull it from. So when you click add, it brings up that same interface that we saw before where we're on the server. And then I just find my file, foundations2.bak. You guys go in and find your backup file, wherever you created it. Find the name of it. Click on it once. Or, I mean, technically speaking, you could use any of the backup files that are inside of here. It doesn't matter. But I'm just going to use the same one. And then say OK. And then after you get it inside of there, OK again. And it will load it. And this part is important. So the destination, it's asking you where you want to restore the information to. So if we had a catastrophic failure in Foundations 2 and we needed to restore that database, then we would restore directly to the database from which we took the backup. But in this case, we don't want to do that. We're making a play version of the database. And so if you just rename the database destination right here, now, I mean, this would be like the first time that you do this. So I'm going to do an underscore play on this. And if that database exists, then we could have, click the drop-down box and choose database or foundations2 underscore play. Timeline, when do you want it to happen? Restore to the last backup taken, which is today at 1:21. And then there's the location of it. The files section, don't worry about that. Options section, don't worry about that. This is the only parts that you need to mess with. And then, I mean, if you want to, you can run through the verify backup media, and it'll say, yeah, everything's okay. And then after you're done, you say, okay. And if it's successful, then you'll get this announcement that says it was restored successfully. And then you should be able to, I mean, it should be there, but it's always good to go back and refresh. And then you can see there's Foundations 2 play, and then there's Foundations 2. Foundations 2 is still in restoring state. So whenever you restore a database, depending on some of the options that you choose and some of the backup options that you choose. So let me go back into this real quick. Oh, you can't because it's in restoring state. Let me get in Foundations 1 and I'll just look at that one. Blah, 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 blah. Media options. Where is it? Override all existing backup, backup new, verify backup when finished, perform checksum, continue on error, transaction log, tape drive, backup options, compression, encryption, backup type, full, should be okay. All right. Now okay. So anyway, whenever you restore from a database, it puts that database into what's called restoring mode. And you have to actually tell the database that you're done restoring. Even though it's done the restoration and it's done, it is still set into restoration mode. And so you need to turn restoration mode off so that the database can go back into its standard mode and you can access it again. So right now, we can't access Foundations 2 at all. So if we click on it, not accessible. The database management system, i.e. SQL Server, has locked us out of that database. This is why when backups happen, they need to happen at a time when there is no traffic on the database itself. So you lock the database, make the backup, restore the backup, and then you unlock the database and allow it to work.
Quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, does this only happen for the full restore?
Say it again. Does this only happen for what?
Okay, so you know how we had the difference, full versus the simple restore? Does this only happen with the full restore?
So in my experience, this has to do, whether or not it stays in restoration mode has to do with the, with several things. One, yes, it does have to do with the type of restoration that you're doing. So in simple, I would think it wouldn't lock it down because it doesn't have to worry about the transaction log data. Well, you guys tell me, did you guys do?
Yeah, I was able to access it. That's why I asked.
So it's not set in restoring mode?
No.
Yeah, right. Again, so if you're doing a simple backup, it's not having to interact with all of the different types of data that a full restoration does. And so it does the transaction, completes it, and then opens it back up as a single opens it up as a single backup restoration. Again, because it's not as complex as it is to do a full restore. And usually when you're doing a full restore, as a database administrator, you usually don't just restore it a single time. You're usually doing the restorations to multiple databases. And so, and that's what I was trying to find. Oh, but I guess that would be in restore, right? So, restore database, files, options, rewrite existing database. Where is there it is, right there. Right. So restore with recovery. This option right here, restore with recovery, restore with standby, no recovery. So if I was to do this exact same thing, this exact same restoration, I did it with no recovery, then, in fact, let me just do it so that I verify what the heck I'm actually talking about. Add, oh wait, I need to, hold on. Let's do it.
Will it let you do that while it's still in restore?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm gonna have to do it on a different database. That's why I'm pausing for a second. Oh, I bet visual. Yeah, visual's right here. Here we go. So there's visual, and then there's the log associated with it. Where's Foundations 2? And there's the Foundations 2 backup log that we created. So I'm going to restore from visual. Yeah, okay, whatever. And then name of it's going to be, I think I already have a play from last time I taught this class. We'll call this play 2. And then options, no recovery, and then okay. Successfully. Oh, this locked both of them. So Visual DB, but I thought no recovery was supposed to open it up. Anyway, let me see something really quick. I'm gonna type some stuff, and you guys don't worry about it. Please connecting to database engine. Why? Oh no, I don't want to go there. Well, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter where I am. Stop it. 0 pages, blah, 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 blah. That's the one I want to, okay, so let me refresh this really quick. Yeah, so that restores that. So basically what I did was, when I put it into its recovery mode, this trigger turns off recovery mode, or turns off restoration mode back into recovery. So if ever you come to a point where you're stuck in restoration mode, you actually have two options. So you can do this, just turn the trigger on or off, right? So set it to with recovery. Or you can actually go in and, and I guess this way is more proper. So you can actually go in here, I'll show you. Let me copy this really quick so I can turn it off on that other database. Underscore play, play 2. So that turned play 2 off. Now, Foundations 2 is still in recovery mode. I guess a more proper way of doing this would be to restore it from the log itself. So restore log, and then list the database Foundations 2, and then from disk, and then you got to give it the fully qualified path for the restoration log. So that one's going to take a second. Hold on, let me get to it really quick. Actually, no, yeah, I'm not on the network, so I won't be able to. No, it doesn't matter because it's externally exposed. Sorry, I'm talking to myself. Device, add. All right, so here, this is what I'm talking about. This is the pathway. This is the full pathway of the file location on the database. And so it needs a fully qualified path for the log itself. So that's part of what I need. So there's the first part, and now I need the name of the actual file inside of that. And the name of the file is, which one am I doing to? Foundations 2, right? So this is the log for the backup that I created, which is generated automatically whenever I do the backup itself. And so I need that name. I wonder if copying right there will give me that name. Yeah, nope, it didn't. I'll try that again. I'm going to say okay. Oh, well, there's the whole stinking thing. Oh no, that's what I need. Okay. Do that. Foundations 2. I want to copy that somehow. Give me the name of that stinking thing. Okay, maybe I can copy it from this. I don't want to type all of that. Yes, good. Right, so that is the name of the backup file. And all I'm telling it is to restore from this log, and then here's the destination of the log file itself, and it'll go into that log, read it, and then restore according to the instructions inside of that log itself. And so if I execute that, right, everything's okay in terms of the execution. Then I can refresh, and Foundations 2 is open again. So when you're doing a full backup, obviously, you will be put into restoration mode. And restoration mode has to be turned off, right? This is the trigger to turn it off. This, right, restore database. So like on the exam, you guys will have to execute this code in order to make that happen. Or, like I said, this is more proper to actually restore, turn the trigger on from the log file itself. But at least this gives you two ways of doing it, right? So if this way doesn't work, then do it this way, and that should handle it. You guys okay with that? Nicole, everything good? All right. So now, last thing we have to do is actually just check to see whether or not stuff is there. So should be enough data in this to actually look at something. Oh no, not. Message table, maybe? Nope. Don't have anything in there. Reminders, that's the one that has stuff in there. There we go. Lots of stuff inside of reminders. I actually missed doing this. This was, I told you guys, this is back when we were doing Android development in Foundations 2, and so that class actually made a reminders application where they got to save stuff to a database and all that kind of stuff. I don't remember what class that was. No, when was this? Yeah, I guess it was. That wasn't that long ago. What, 2019? 2021? Oh, heck, Angel, you were in there.
Yeah,
Huh. That was good times. I like doing Android development, although it was massively complicated.
when you got in the hang of it, it was good.
Yeah, it was just, there's so many moving parts inside of Android development that it was just too much for students to handle, so anyway. Okay, so that's back up and restore. And that's it. You guys got questions? I will make you do that on the exam, guaranteed. And I'm going to give you a rundown of all the stuff that's going to be on the exam also. Like I'll make a, I don't know, a PDF document that says you're going to have to do this, and you're going to have to do that, and you're going to have to do this. So that way when you get here, you'll know exactly what you're going to have to do. You guys cool with that? Heck, we're done early. All right. If there's,
Wait, so is that everything?
it is literally everything. That's it. That's how you back up and restore. That's this is the end of where we come to usually in database. There, we usually don't have this much time left. Like usually this happens like Monday or Wednesday of dead days. We're like a week early for whatever reason. I mean, if there's anything specific that you guys want to cover, I'll be happy to cover that stuff. I've actually petitioned to have this class broken up into two pieces where we can actually get into a little more depth than like a database theory 2 course or something like that. But, you know, the good thing is, like I said, most of you guys aren't going to end up being database administrators. And if you are, you're going to have to go get some sort of certification anyway, depending on, you know, what management system you're using. As developers, most of the stuff that we cover inside of here isn't important other than the part where you're actually interacting with the database itself. Although, I mean, it is an undergraduate program, and so we have to prep you for getting your master's, and that's what all the theory at the beginning of it is. So if you go get your master's, your database course that you took there will pick up pretty much where we left off in the theory portion at the beginning of the class and work from there. So, yep, that's it. Yay! Hooray, now you get a giant project to do.
So I do have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Or maybe a topic we could look at, I don't know.
Okay.
Like, so I'm curious a little bit more in depth into like an explanation of a like login server, okay?
Okay.
So like, I mean, just the parts of, you know, like like how it keeps the passwords and stuff like that and usernames and stuff.
Gotcha. So, you can actually, I mean, if you want to get a glimpse into something like that, the AdventureWorks database actually has sales.customer has columns inside of there. No, account number, that's fine. Where is it? There's some data, like they assume a login somewhere inside of here. I can't remember exactly where it is. And so you can see some of that data inside of here. so, uh, logging in, okay, so, I can't remember, I can't actually remember, what are all the projects we did this semester from the beginning in Windows Forms? What are they? What was the first one? Somebody tell me. Nobody knows. Pro- Yeah, it was just like products list. We never did a login thing in this semester, did we? Okay. So, there's not a ton of difference between, keeping track of login data and stuff like that. The only, I mean, you just gotta think of them as transactions, right? So when someone attempts to log into, a system, the transaction is, take the information that they, put inside of the form and then go try to retrieve that information from the database. And if you can retrieve that exact information from the database, so you can think, right, you're gonna write some kind of select query where, select username, where username is equal to whatever it is that they typed in. And then you're gonna have a field inside of there for password, and then you're verifying the password via what you grabbed from the username. Not necessarily, they don't need to know just the username information in order to log in. They have to verify the password as well. And so you have to grab the password data via the username and then compare it to whatever it is they typed in and do the verification one way or another. Make sure they typed in everything correctly, or if you have other safeguards in place, then you can do that. And then, like account creation is same kind of thing. You just fill out whatever information is you want to, make sure it's within the constraints that you give for the account creation, and then save that information to the database so that you can retrieve it whenever they go and log in. Is that the kind of stuff you're talking about, Phil?
Yes, somewhat. I was just curious to like, in practice, I know the passwords aren't normally saved, like, the exact password is saved in the database, is it not? Or
Well, it is, but it has to be, right? But it's usually encrypted in some way. So, I will show you an example of that inside of this database. Where would it be? Da 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 da. There is a stinking password somewhere inside of here, and they have it saved exactly the way that you should. Let me look through these names really quick. Oh, wait, here. I bet it'll be in here. Card type, card number. There's no way. Hold on, let me select this. Oh no, they do store the card number just like that, month and expiration. Currency rate, customer, person credit card, sales order detail. It'll be, it's called a salt encryption. I know there's several of them in here. Vendor shipping method, work order, unit, transaction, scrap reason, bill of materials.
Is it person.password?
There it is, bam, yes, thank you. There you go, Phil.
all right.
This is the way passwords are stored in a database of any reliability and credibility. This is the way that they're stored. So the hash and the salt associated with the password itself, and then the combination of those two, you can derive the original password do the conversion and then compare it to whatever it is that the user typed in. That's it. Person.password. Thank you.
Sweet, okay, I'll take a look at it, and if I have any more questions, I'll ask you.
Okay, awesome. Anything else? All right, guys, that's all I got then. We'll see ya.